This is a fun video today. We're gonna talk about how to stage like a pro. Here's 3 tips of how to do the furniture arrangement in your home. For these 3 tips that we're gonna get into today, the first one is gonna be a focal point. The second one is gonna be establishing walking paths and a circular design. And the third one is gonna go into furniture dimensions. All right, so let's just dive right into this. We gotta start with developing a focal point. So what is a focal point? Well, there could be multiple focal points in a room. Commonly, they're things like a window. So say you're like in a high rise, or you're on like a lake house, or you have a mountain view. The focal point of that room might be the window itself and the view outside. It also could be an architectural detail, such as fireplace, or maybe it's an entertainment use in the space, so you want a TV, or maybe it's things like built-in bookshelves or a niche or some artwork that you want to show off. Whatever it is, we need to establish the one main focal point. So let's take a look at this room quick. So in here, we got the open concept over here. So this is not going to be a focal point over here necessarily. We have a couple windows on that side. We have this tall glass pane of windows over here, which does have a nice view of the backyard, but probably isn't gonna be our main focal point. Our main focal point is going to be this. We have this grand stone cast fireplace, beautiful built-in bookshelves, and they even did an accent wall, because an accent wall could also be an architectural element. This is going to be the focal point of the room. That means that everything we do for the furniture design has to focus this way. So that's the first step. We got that done. We've established what the focal point is going to be. The second step is, now we have to figure out where are the walking paths. When we're thinking about walking paths, I want you to think of how you're gonna go from one room to the next, or what different ways you're gonna walk through the room. There might be a couple doors in the room, so you might have to have a couple different walking paths. In this room, this house is set up like a shotgun home, meaning you're really just going from one space to the next. So we just need one walking path. So the easiest way to do it would be to just cut a walking path right down the center to this door. And if we did that, come down the center, then we would divide into 2 separate areas for furniture. But instead, let's get creative. Let's create walking paths that maybe aren't necessarily complete linear straight lines. You can have them curve and move throughout the space. What we want for a main walking path is 36 inches clearance, so that's 3 feet. And what we want for not primary walking paths, but smaller walking paths would be 22 inches. This establishes what we're gonna do for our walking paths. Now we need to do in this step is figure out where the circular design, where the center point of the room is gonna be. And so for this space, remember our focal point is this wall, okay? So if we're gonna do that, to me, this grand chandelier here, look how big and awesome this is. This is the center focal point. So from the center focal point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from that center space and we're gonna do a line so that the diameter is 7 to 9 feet. You draw a circle around it, and that space is where we're gonna do our furniture arrangement. So now we got this circle, okay? We have the circle defined. We can start doing furniture arrangements, but let's get to that in a little bit. Before we do, let's talk about some other key things. Look, you're probably gonna have a TV, especially in your living space. The average TV right now is 55 inches, which you wanna have a 7-foot setback from that TV for optimum viewing. In this space, which is a large luxury home, you're further back from that focal wall where you probably have the TV. If you're me, you're gonna put a 75-inch TV up there because we're seeing those as they become more and more common. In fact, they have like 85s, 90s, and even 100 inches now. But for a 75-inch TV, you're 12 foot back, which is about the distance that we have for this current seating arrangement. So this space would be optimal to have a 75-inch TV, but I do want you to think about a TV because if you're sitting here, you have to think about how far back you are, make sure it's at optimal distance, but also do you have to squish your neck up or down to view the TV depending on its height of where you're gonna mount it. All right, let's look at what we just did. We created that imaginary circular line here. We created the passageway. What if I just done a passageway that was through the dead center here? Well, then I wouldn't have that circular design in an optimal use of the space. So instead of doing a straight design, we did that curved design to allow the use of more furniture, which allowed us to have another sitting area all along the side over here and here. We're gonna get into furniture arrangements next, and that's the third step, furniture dimensions. And larger is always better in my opinion. You always wanna go with a larger piece, and we wanna start with larger pieces, and then we'll fill them in and complement them with the smaller pieces, like your side tables and those sort of small accessories. The use of larger pieces is also important because it enhances the open feel to the environment, helps it feel less cluttered, more open, and more inviting to come have a seat in it. A tip that I recommend is to try to use a few round pieces against your square and rectangle pieces. So when we're doing furniture arrangement, we want to have 12 inches as a clearance between, say, a coffee table and an armchair, or a couch and an armchair, and we want to have 10 inches between side tables or pairs of chairs. So here we have 10 inches, okay, 12 inches. We have more than 12 inches for this walking path, so we could even pull this couch forward if we felt that was necessary. 12 and 10. We'll want to use those dimensions when we're doing our layout throughout the space. So let's go through the 3 things that we just talked about today. Number 1, establish a focal point. In this case, it was this wall. Number 2, we want to create our walking path areas, which I did. Instead of doing a straight line, we did this kind of curved line here. Remember, we need 36 inches on the main path and 22 inches on a smaller, less priority path. The other part of that is we need to create a circular design for the conversation area, 7 to 9 foot circumference. In this case, we went the center of this space here. I chose not to have furniture here or on this side because they're in the walking paths, which are areas that I've established are no-goes for furniture. Third thing was furniture dimensions. What we want to do is we want to have larger, less pieces, and then we'll fill in the small pieces afterwards. We also talked about the clearance distances that we need between coffee tables and chairs, or between couches and chairs. We want to have at least 12 inches. Between side things like a side table or other side accessories, we want to have 10 inches in between. Keeping all the dimensions together, you should be able to create a very cohesive and excellent conversation piece. I hope you enjoyed this video and found some good tips for doing your living space. If you want more design tips, enjoy seeing luxury real estate in Iowa City. Make sure to subscribe down below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.